George Strait, a famous country music singer, didn't just do music. The famous country singer was about to quit making music so he could spend more time with his wife, Norma Strait. Norma has been very important to George's career and is often the calm and sensible force in his life. He's always had her back. She was even in the music video for his song Cody Go. George, on the other hand, needs to be there for Norma because of the heavy weight of a shared loss. George Strait met his wife while he was in high school, but they didn't talk yet. They ran into each other sometimes, but that was it. George might not have said much, because he was busy and couldn't commit. Mr. John Byron Strait Sr. was a math teacher at a middle school, and owned a 200-acre cattle ranch outside of Big Wells, Texas. Over the summer, George spent most of his weekends working on the ranch. He liked it, but one day he asked Norma to go on a date with him. He thought she was very pretty, and even said she was hot. He didn't see her for a long time after that date. Life had gotten in the way of George's attention, but was there another reason he wouldn't commit to Norma when he was in the 4th grade? His parents got a divorce, which caused his family to split up. His mother took his sister Penny in, while he and his brother John Buddy Jr. stayed with their dad. Bud and George kept working on their dad's farm, but George felt like something was missing from his life. He thought about Norma, even though he didn't see her again. After seeing her again, he asked her to date her. Both of them went to Pestle High School. When we talk about high school, George wasn't just looking for love. He also loved being a cowboy and working on the ranch. But music caught his attention instead. George really liked music and wished he could play the guitar. He was just a young man with dreams, not the legendary figure he's become. Light plays country music. Like many young Americans at the time, George's first musical style was rock and roll. During his time at Pestle High School, he was also really into the British invasion. In high school, he joined a band called the Stoics. They got most of their ideas from the Beatles and other British artists. The British invasion rock style gained a lot of fans, so George's choice was strange, because Texas has a strong country music scene. He didn't like country music at all, so he didn't listen to it on the radio. Instead, he liked Farmer's Report. He went where rock and roll music took him, and played with a number of different groups, but something changed. After seeing a live show, George finally listened to country music. He started going to more live country music shows after seeing them, and his tastes in music changed. He really liked country music, and would listen to artists like Hank Thompson, Frank Sinatra, Lefty Frizzell, Merle Haggard, George Jones, Bob Wills, and Hank Williams all the time. George started his journey to becoming a professional musician once he knew what kind of music he wanted to play. He did, however, still need some things. After a relationship that went on and off, George was ready to take things to the next level. What happened next could be seen as crazy, romantic, or even a mix of the two. They went to Mexico without telling anyone after high school and got married there on December 4, 1971. They took on the world together, and George loved the challenges. George and Norma got married, and then went back to Peel to have a church wedding. It looked like they got together right out of a romance book. But bad things happened. It was almost time for Norma and George to lose everything. They were happy with their quiet life at that time. George loved more than just his wife. He also loved country music and cowboy roping. When the time came for him to join the army in 1971, he did so without fear. He loved his country. In order to serve his country, he quickly became an infantryman and was sent to Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. She moved in with him after his posting, and the two of them started living together. Their daughter Jennifer George was born on October 6, 1972, making them a family. George now had almost everything he ever wanted. He wasn't quite there yet, but he quickly made sure of that. George never lost his love for music, and jumped at every chance to play. He tried out for and got into the country music band Ramblin' Country, which was sponsored by the Army. He played both first and second base. George and Norma's life was going well, but they were not ready for the terrible event that was about to happen. George got out of the Army as a corporal in 1975, and went straight to Texas State University to study agriculture. He had worked on a ranch all his life, so it wasn't a surprise that he chose that job. He didn't pick music instead though. George didn't study music at Texas State, but he always remembered it. A country band called Stony Ridge had put up a flyer around campus that he saw. They needed a new singer, and Strait joined them right away after an audition. He even became a well-known band member, and they changed their name to the Ace. The band played all over Texas, mostly in honky-tonks and bars, and quickly became well-known in the state. They even opened for big names like Asleep, At the Wheel, and the Texas Playboys. As their fame grew in their home state, a Houston-based independent record label called D Record offered to let them record singles. They were lucky to have the chance, and Strait wrote the songs. It was too bad that the songs didn't do well at the charts. Strait was getting angry. But Norma kept telling him to find a way to make ends meet. During the day, he kept working on his dad's cattle ranch to make money for his family. They were able to take care of themselves with the money they made from their songs. George failed, and George lost touch with people in the music business. In spite of this, he and his band kept playing with a lot of passion. Because of this, they met E.R.V. Woy and became friends with him. Woy ran a bar where George's band played and had worked for the big record company MCA Records. Woy told the people he knew about George and his band. These people really liked them, but they weren't sure if his style of music would appeal to more people. What was it about this style that made him get turned down? Check back to find out. George was upset, but he wasn't ready to give up. After falling, he got back up and tried harder. George went to Nashville to try to make it big, but nothing good happened. He tried out at many studios, but each one turned him down. The disappointments made him lose faith, and George was done soon. It was important for him to support his family, so if music wasn't the way, he would find another job. But while George was having a bad time with his music career, he got a job offer to design cattle pens for a ranch. He had to do the same job every day, even though he didn't want to do it. George quit the band, which meant that his hopes of becoming a famous musician were over. Norma wasn't pleased. She knew her husband wasn't really into building cattle pens, and she didn't want to be the one to make him give up music, so she called him to have a serious talk, and asked him to give music one more year. George didn't want Norma to feel bad. He loved her too much to hurt her, so he agreed to keep working as a musician for another year. It was lucky for him that he paid attention to Norma. George got a recording deal with MCA in 1981, but there was a catch. George only had one chance with them. They might make an album if his song did well. For George, that one chance was great. George put out his first single for MCA Records called Unwound. He brought his band with him as backup. The song by George Strait was a huge hit. It got to number 6 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart. Because of this, his first country album came out, solidifying his position as the most exciting new musician in the business. His fresh sound was a nice change from the pop-influenced country music that was popular at the time. People liked how George's music was a unique mix of traditional country style and a real cowboy image. His music was praised for taking country music back to its roots. Even the brightest stars have bad days, despite their early success. However, George's first album and single kept getting attention. His second son, George Bubba Strait Jr., was born in 1981 to his wife Norma. After another year of success, George had his first #1 single the next year. This accomplishment showed that he could combine his interests into a style of music that worked well together. George's career kept going strong, and in 1983, he took on a difficult role when he filled in for the famous country musician Eddie Rabbitt as the headliner of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. George's career reached another important milestone with this experience, which showed how flexible and adaptable he is. From 1983 to 1984, George had a great run. He put out 5 albums that all went straight to the top of the Billboard charts. Around 1981, George thought about giving up music, but his hard work and talent helped him win the Country Music Award for Top Male Vocalist. As his career grew, his wife Norma was always there for him and kept things stable at home. She gave up her own career to be with their kids, which shows how much she cares about her family. George's wife's hard work and unwavering support were key to the success of their family. The Country Music Award for Top Male Vocalist went to George again because of all she did. This amazing win showed how hard he worked and how dedicated he was, but it also made him think of the things he gave up along the way. He would change the terrible event that broke his wife and him if he could. She did everything she could to keep an eye on her kids. As Jessica, Norma's first child, grew up and turned 13, she and her husband kept an eye on her friends. They liked the people she hung out with. In 1986, Jessica wanted to go out, and her parents didn't see a reason not to let her. They let her go with her friends when she was 13, because they thought her daughter needed to be on her own. That night in 1986 would be the last time they saw their daughter alive, which was sad. Jen didn't pay attention to her seatbelt while she was riding in the front seat of the car she was in when she left. Gregory Wilson Allen, the driver, was going too fast when he got to a turn he couldn't handle. Jennifer wasn't wearing a seatbelt when the car flipped, so she was thrown out of the car in part. She died right away when the car hit her on the side and crushed her. The driver was charged with a Class A misdemeanor for killing someone with their car, but the crime had already been committed. Jennifer was not going to come back. Her experience showed how important it is to pay attention and follow the rules of the road. Also, it showed how weak George and his wife were. They were completely broken. Norma's heart was broken the most, and George had to say something. He quit doing interviews and stayed away from any public events that might have forced him to talk about how the death of his daughter affected him and Norma. It was hard for Norma to deal with her loss, because she felt like she had failed at her job. Both Norma and George set up the Jennifer Lynn Strait Foundation in 1986. Norma wanted to bring about some normalcy, and stop other kids from going through the same thing through the foundation. The foundation wanted to help kids who didn't have anything. In her role as co-founder, Norma did a good job. Even though the death of her daughter was very sad, she still did what she had to do. I had to be there for Bubba, her almost 5-year-old son. Even though George kept performing, she still cared about him. He didn't take a break from music, because he couldn't afford to. He was sad about the loss, but singing helped him deal with it. His sadness showed up in his music and on stage, which led to an amazing run of 11 #1 hits in a row from 1986 to 1989. In the end, this streak broke Conway Twitty's record for the most #1 country songs on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart. He also set a new record for the most #1 songs by any artist in any genre. He was nominated for 9 Country Music Awards and 11 Academy of Country Music Awards during this legendary run. This made him the most nominated artist in those categories. He won the Country Music Award and the ACM Award for Entertainer of the Year in 1989 and 1990. In 2013 and 2014, he won another CMA Award and another ACM Entertainer of the Year Award. At the time, these were the most awards ever won by a country musician.